Welcome back to the second season of Real College Reviews. This is our first episode, and I'm here with my good friend Joey.
First things first, I want to say thank you, Jude, for having me on.
Of course.
And yeah, a little introduction about myself. My name is Joey Appello. I'm a junior at Penn State, and I'm an accounting major.
Yeah, awesome. And I'll just jump right into it here. You're at Penn State. How did you choose Penn State? Like, what was the specific draw or reasoning why you chose Penn State over some other schools?
Yeah, so I'd say probably the biggest reason I chose Penn State was because of its size, the amount of people there, the amount of things to do, just means that there's more opportunities. Penn State also has the largest active alumni network, like anywhere in the world.
Really?
So I found that to be pretty cool, and I'm hoping that that's going to help me out soon once I start looking for a job.
Yeah. What does that alumni network do? How does that really work? Because Syracuse, where I go, is a big school too, and they have that. But Penn State, I've heard a lot of students talk about that alumni network. Is it people coming in to do workshops? Is it networking opportunities on a website like LinkedIn? How exactly does that work, and how do you tap into that alumni network?
Yeah, it's really just all kinds of stuff, just because there's the sheer mass of people that graduated from Penn State and are working in the workforce. They're just constantly looking for Penn State products to hire. They prefer Penn State students typically. And yeah, so some of the clubs I know of have alumni come in and try to recruit Penn State students, and we have our career days and things like that where they come in and try to recruit us.
And it's really, they go for specific Penn State students, and that's kind of their first option. And then if they don't find one, they'll be like, oh, maybe we'll go to Syracuse or Pittsburgh or another school. That's really cool. And I think that we'll touch on this later in the episode, how Penn State's, it's a very passionate school, and people are proud to be, not only students now, but alumni from 20, 30, 40, X amount of years ago, which again, I think is really cool. But what were some other schools rather that you were looking at, and then why'd you choose? I guess you already touched on why you chose Penn State, but is there any ways that Penn State also stuck out above some other schools?
Yeah, so the other schools that I was considering were Rutgers, Delaware, Maryland. It was mainly between Penn State and Delaware.
So other large schools in the Northeast.
Exactly, large Northeast schools. When it came down to Penn State and Delaware, I was comparing the two, and I wanted a bigger kind of football vibe, and I liked how Penn State had that. They're both, I guess, kind of comparable distances, so I can't really say anything about that. But also I liked the party aspect of it, how it's a social thing. Yeah. I guess Delaware also has that too, so that's kind of why those were my main two. But I just went with Penn State. It
was just kind of a gut reaction at that final moment. Yeah, and we'll definitely touch on the party aspect, football aspect later. I mean, that's, again, Penn State, especially in the Northeast. I think down south it's a little more common, but, up where we are in New Jersey, there's not too many schools that have that huge football culture. Every Saturday you get up and you go to a game. And, I definitely want to hear what you have to think about that in the show, because I'm sure it'll be only positive things. But looking more at the classroom first, how have your classes been through your first 2-3 years? Have you liked them? Have they been large? Just give me the rundown.
Yeah, so they are very big classes for the most part. A lot of them are over 150 students. Most of them are. And yeah, so I'm an accounting major, and I don't know how it is at other schools, but at Penn State, you're not actually in the business school until your junior year. So I actually just got into it. And the first 2 years, I've been taking a lot of entrance to major classes. So a lot of the basic level business classes, basic management, basic marketing, accounting, finance, all that kind of stuff, along with gen ed classes.
Yeah.
So I haven't really gotten into the meat of my major yet. That's kind of what I'm going to be doing this year.
You said you weren't in the business school until going into your junior year, right?
Yeah.
Is that something you have to apply for, or is it guaranteed when you sign up as a freshman and you say, oh, my major's accounting or my major's business? How does that work?
No, you have to sign up for it. You have to meet, there's GPA requirements,
Oh, wow.
There's class requirements.
Okay.
So even the difference between accounting and finance, accounting, I needed a 3.2 GPA. Finance, if I want to do finance, you need to keep a 3.5 GPA before junior year. So there's all kind of requirements like that. I actually applied to Penn State undecided, so I wasn't affiliated with business at all. So.
And how'd you, I guess, that kind of spurs another question, where how'd you end up choosing not just business, but accounting from really anything that you could have?
So part of the reason they have the entrance to major classes is so students can decide what they want to do. Yeah. I had no idea, and once I took accounting, like the basic accounting class, I was like, all right, like I kind of get how to do this. Like I don't love it, but like I could see myself doing this. So that's kind of why I chose it. It's like, it's not the best thing in the world, but I needed something.
Yeah, it's doable, and it'll definitely pay the bills. It's not one of those majors where you're gonna have trouble finding a job at all, especially with that Penn State alumni network we were just talking about. And the professors, do you like know them on a personal level at all, and have they been good teachers?
I haven't become close with any teachers like on a personal level. I know you definitely can if you make an effort to go up to them after class or before class, whatever. I know students who have. But yeah, they're typically well-qualified teachers, know what they're talking about. A lot of them have like actual experience in the field. But there definitely is a fair share of teachers who like really like I don't know how they're teaching.
That's everywhere
though. So I think like a lot of the time it's like I find like their accents to be very challenging to understand. I took this one math class and nobody could understand the teacher. And one time he was trying to make some kind of analogy and nobody understood what he was trying to do. And he went on the whiteboard and he just started drawing like basketballs and volleyballs. Just nobody knew what he was talking about. But yeah, it's really inconsistent when it comes to those guys.
And I think especially too, people who haven't been to college, and maybe people who go to smaller schools too, a lot of the professors, especially in majors, you're right, I know neither of us are engineering or biomedicine, but some of those really, really tough, academically rigorous majors, the professors have an accent. It's really hard to, on top of that really challenging content, it's hard to kind of decipher what they're saying, especially if it's an 8 a.m. or a 9:30 in the morning class. But going more towards the coursework, you mentioned how you had to maintain a 3.2 GPA. Through your first 2 years, was that challenging or was the work easy?
I'd say for the most part, it was very doable for me. I personally like the way college is way more than high school with like coursework. I think it's like, I don't want to say easier, but I think it's more doable. You have so much time in college. Yeah. You have a lot of time to do your work. So as long as you're good with time management, I think it's fairly easy to keep that a 3.2.
No, for sure. And I think something else that's interesting, that we're talking about classes and all this at a big school like Penn State. How do you pick your schedule? Because I know at Rutgers, it's an absolute mess where every single student, all 35 or 40,000 of them, register at once, and everyone's computer crashes and no one gets the classes they want. At Penn State, is it a lottery system? Is it a staggered time kind of thing?
Yeah, it's a staggered time. They typically tell you the date that you're picking your classes, maybe like a month before, and it's typically like around the end of the semester. Mm-hmm. But they have like 1 week dedicated to it, and everyone's kind of a different day in the week. So it does depend on your GPA, I'm pretty sure.
Really?
So I think students with higher GPAs typically tend
priority.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I'm pretty sure that's how it works. I'm not totally sure. I
guess going off of that, in terms of people at Penn State, what are some of the typical characteristics of both guys at Penn State and girls at Penn State? What do you know, if someone said to describe the average Penn State student, at least for a guy, what would you say?
I kind of hate to say this, but like a really obnoxious Philly kid is what I typically think of as like the typical Penn State kid, and I'm surrounded by them. I really don't like those people, but no, I'm just kidding. They're all right. But yeah, the characteristics, I guess, of a typical Penn State student, like a lot of them they're really great people. They're nice, they're easygoing, hardworking. They like getting their work done, focus on school, but at the same time, they like to enjoy themselves and go out on the weekends.
So it's like a work hard, play hard environment.
Yeah, kind of.
And say I'm in class, right? Maybe I don't get a certain concept or a lesson. If I were to go up to the average person at Penn State and say like, hey, could you help me with this assignment? Would they be pretty accepting of that and try and give you a hand?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Do you see yourself as the typical Penn State student? Do you see yourself as a perfect fit at that college?
No, I definitely fit in well at Penn State. And I think most people would. Like, I think it's definitely a pretty diverse school and has a lot to offer for a lot of different people.
And what do you mean by that? Like in terms of clubs or just stuff outside of the campus? What do you mean by stuff being offered for, like you said, everyone?
Yeah, so like I'm sure you know, like massive Greek life.
Yeah.
But also tons of clubs. I'm pretty sure they told us during our orientation, there's a club for people named Bob. Like there's
it's that big of a school?
Yeah, there's just so many clubs. You could join a club for anything. So yeah, there's something for everyone at Penn State.
Are you in any sort of, and we'll touch on Greek life in a little bit, but Are you in any sort of academic clubs or clubs that aren't Greek life related?
Yeah, so I'm in the accounting society, which is like basically just a club for accounting students to meet with recruiters and different companies, kind of just network and learn more about accounting. I just joined it this past semester, and I secured a spot on the executive board.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, I'm going to have to start coordinating events for next year, but yeah, no, it's definitely something cool to be part of. It's cool to be in a club involved in something.
Yeah, absolutely. From my own experience at Syracuse, it almost, because, right, you're in accounting, I'm in journalism, joining those clubs that have to do with your major but not having to kind of rely on schoolwork to have that experience in your major is just super cool, because it's a kind of a laid back experience where it's like, oh, you know, if you mess up, it's not your grade going from an A to a B minus. It's just you're gaining experience without that pressure of getting a grade, which I always found super, super helpful. And in high school, there's really not much of that. But in college, it's just plentiful.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it.
And then moving towards the campus of Penn State, I've never been there, but I've heard a lot about it. Just describe it for me. You're walking across it. What are you seeing? Just what is it like walking to and from class at Penn State?
Yeah, first of all, I just want to say, like, it's in the middle of nowhere in Pennsylvania. Like, if you dropped a pin on Pennsylvania, it's literally in, like, the center of the state. So, like, you're really just surrounded by farmland and mountains and a whole lot of nothing, really. So when you're, like, driving there, it's literally just, like, fields, and then all of a sudden it's just a massive college town. So there's downtown, and then there's campus. There's, like, a main road that splits up the two, and they're both, like, huge areas. But as far as the campus goes, it's beautiful, especially in the fall when the leaves are changing, and then in the springtime when they're growing back. It's gorgeous. I will say the winters kind of suck. I don't like the wintertime.
I feel like that's most places in the Northeast, though.
Yeah.
You know, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, it's gray and it sucks.
But yeah, it's a nice campus, a lot of old stone buildings. And there's not really any far walks. Like, I know other big schools, you have to take buses. Penn State, you don't need to take a bus. I'd say, like, the furthest walk you could possibly have, like, if you were on the other corner, would be 20 minutes.
Really? Because
Yeah.
I've heard it's a huge campus.
It is, yeah.
It just kind of, even though it's big, it's really not that far of a walk from places you need to get to.
It's very walkable. It is a little hilly, so it could be, like, a little tiring.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's not that bad.
And is there anything special about the campus? Maybe something that sticks out that other schools that you looked at didn't have?
Yeah, I guess I'd say Beaver Stadium, the football stadium, is massive. I think last year against Michigan, we had an attendance of over 110,000 people. So yeah, that's definitely a sight to see. We have, like, a lot of pretty buildings. We have Old Main, which is, like, a historical building that sits, like, right in the center of campus. And then, like, we have, like, the Nittany Lion statue, stuff like that.
And that stuff just kind of, I guess I'll go back to the stadium. Where is that located within the campus? Right, it's on the campus, right?
Yeah, it's on one of, like, the complete ends of the campus. So if you're coming in from, like, New Jersey, it's going to be the first thing you see.
Okay.
But yeah, it's kind of out of the way from everything else.
Because I know some colleges, like, the stadium is just smack in the middle, and it's almost like a center point where it's like anywhere you are from campus, you look around and you see the stadium. It's like, oh, go this way to find my dorm or find the dining hall. But at Penn State, it's kind of separate. Do you like that in terms of, like, game day operations, or would you rather it be in the middle of campus?
I guess now that I think about it, it would be cool to have it in the middle of campus. It's not, like, too far away to the point where it's, like, annoying where it is. But yeah, I guess it would be kind of cool if it was in the middle of campus.
But you still walk to it on game days. Like, it's not that incredibly far where you gotta.
No.
Cool. And is there any new construction on campus? I know a lot of colleges, especially post-COVID, have been putting up new, beautiful buildings. Is there anything like that going on at Penn State that you know of?
Well, actually, to talk about the stadium again, like, they're planning on renovating the stadium literally, like, the year that I'm leaving, so that kind of sucks. But yeah, they're making the stadium a lot nicer, and they've been doing this for a few years now. They've been renovating dorm buildings every year. They've been knocking down, like, maybe 3 or 4 and then rebuilding them to make them new.
And that's a perfect transition to what I was going to ask you next. Is your dorm room your freshman year? Where'd you live? Did you like it? And what was your experience there like?
Okay, yeah. I lived in East Halls. So Penn State has East Halls, North, South, and West. And
that's pretty.
And also Pollock Commons. So there's 5 different areas where there's dorm rooms. East is definitely the biggest for freshmen. There's probably like 10 buildings there. And I got lucky to live in a renovated building. So I had like AC in it. It was like a new room. The ground floor had like all kinds of like study areas and TVs, stuff like that. And I think the best thing about my dorm was the bathroom situation. We didn't have communal bathrooms.
That's nice.
We had our own bathrooms. You could go in, lock the door.
Like kind of pod style.
Yeah, like not your own. It wasn't in the room. Like you would go out of your room. It's in the hallway. It's in the hallway.
Right. No, I know what you're talking about. It's kind of hard, right, if you've never been to college, what it is. But I had those my freshman year too. I'll say it, and I think I'm going to say this on your behalf, but they're so much nicer. People don't realize they're so much nicer than a communal bathroom.
Mm-hmm. I'd say like communal bathrooms definitely build character, like living in that kind of situation, but I would never want to do that.
But you liked your dorm room, right? In the grand scheme of things?
Yeah, I did.
And are most of them like that for freshmen at Penn State, or did you get super lucky, like you said?
In East Halls, which is the main area where freshmen go, most of them are renovated now, but there are other areas where they're not. Like Pollock Commons is probably the second most populated like freshman spot, and it's not renovated at all. Like
so no AC, nothing like that.
Communal bathrooms. You walk from East Halls to Pollock Halls, and you think like it's a totally different school.
It's funny how often that's common too, because I went to visit some friends at Delaware a couple months ago, and one of their dorm rooms was just that it was like a hotel. Piano in the lobby, it's air conditioned. The rooms are nice and furnished. And I went to a different dorm room, 5-10 minute walk away, and I get stories of roaches crawling all over, no AC, floors are just like that linoleum tile type of thing. So it's interesting how schools but it's promising to hear that Penn State is just renovating them year by year, because a ton of schools just leave them up and don't care. Moving past freshman year, what are the housing options looking like for students as sophomores, juniors, and seniors?
Most students after freshman year move downtown into an apartment. That's what I did. You do still have the option to live in a dorm. You could apply for it again. You could live in a dorm the entire time if you want to.
Is it guaranteed, or is it some sort of selection process for dorming after your freshman year?
I'm not exactly sure, but like,
most people get it.
If you apply for it, you're probably going to get it. But yeah, most students end up living in an apartment. I think personally living in an apartment is like miles better than living in a dorm. It's awesome. You get your own kitchen, like own room in some cases. Yeah, most students end up moving downtown.
Are there any sort of, right, you talk about apartments, and I think a school like Penn State where it's that big, that is where most students are going to live. But are there any houses that kids live in, or is it mostly apartments?
Yeah, there are some houses, frat houses too.
Right.
I'm going to bring that up. So yeah, most kids who don't live in an apartment are probably living in a frat house. But there are some houses that kids rent out that like who aren't in frats just live in.
That goes back to the point of how you said it's kind of in the campus in the middle of nowhere, where it's not really built into a city like Syracuse or Pittsburgh or Rutgers is, where there are houses that were there before the school. Penn State, it was the school that was kind of there first, right? And stuff just popped up around it.
Yeah, there is a neighborhood around it. Yeah. But yeah, its main focus is the school.
It's just such an interesting discourse between, was the school there first or was the town there first? And Penn State, it's one of those cases where the school was there first, the town kind of came up around. But this is one of my favorite questions that I always ask, and you'll probably either laugh or you might not have anything. And this is just freshman year roommate stories. I mean, what happened that was just kind of like a, wow, this is a unique, process, different than having my own room in high school and living with my family?
I actually love my roommate. I'm still like really close friends with him.
Oh, wow, yeah.
So I got connected with him through a family friend. He's from New Jersey. He lives in Basking Ridge. So yeah, I still live with him actually. I'm living with him again next year.
Oh, so the story ended up well.
Yeah, it was a really good. I got really lucky. I don't think he actually liked me for like the first few months. I don't think he liked me, but then like towards the middle of the school year, he definitely started to like me more. But we got into like some fights and arguments, but like nothing crazy, nothing too.
It was stuff.
Nothing out of the ordinary.
It was easy to work through.
Yeah.
Like, you left a sock on his side of the room or stuff like that, or was it? I mean, I don't mean to get into too personal stuff, but it wasn't that bad where it ruined your experience as a freshman.
No, not at all. Not at all.
And I think that's what a lot of students get nervous about. With you, it wasn't a complete stranger, but it was pretty close to it.
Yeah, I met with him once or twice before the school year started, and like the person that connected me with him, like I've been close with my entire life, so I knew like he wasn't gonna set me up with some weirdo, you know.
And would you suggest that way of finding a roommate compared to going random, having a family friend or someone you're close with?
For sure. If you have a cousin or a family friend who knows somebody, definitely do that. I think that's one of the best ways. Even like someone from your hometown, that could get like a little bit sometimes
I've heard
problematic.
both ways on that, yeah.
But I'd recommend to not go random if you don't have to.
And that's pretty much the consensus I've heard too. Something that ties into the whole freshman year experience is the dining halls. And what are they like at Penn State? Because there's some mixed opinions nationwide about college dining halls.
I wasn't a massive fan of the dining hall. It's definitely nothing crazy. It's not bad. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and say it's bad. There's tons of options. There's like a pizza bar, pasta bar, makeshift kind of like Chipotle type of thing.
Oh, that's cool.
And every night they would have like their own specials, like typical dining hall stuff. I'd say it's an average dining hall. I wasn't like the biggest fan of going to the dining hall though.
Was it something where it was really, really good the first couple weeks, then you got sick of it, or was it just average throughout?
I'd say it was average throughout.
At least that's good, because my freshman year when I still had the meal plan and whatnot, it was just so nice to go in there in September and a little bit of October and just get whatever food you wanted and head out. And then it just fell off. By April, the dining staff stopped trying. So it was grilled chicken and really crappy Syracuse, New York pizza were the only options we had. And at that point, I was like, all right, get me back to New Jersey where, you know, even at my own house, I'll have more selection. But going off of that too, how are the meal plans structured for freshmen? Is it mandatory that you get an unlimited plan, or can you have some flexibility in choosing that?
Yeah, so I think there were 3 options that you could pick from, like level 1, level 2, level 3.
Yeah.
It was just different prices that you could buy them for. Because like our meal plan, we didn't get like points or anything like that. It was just straight dollars. So you could buy like, let's say like the level 1 meal plan was $1,200. Like you would just have $1,200 to spend. Like, and straight up. And
that's kind of better than an unlimited too, because the reality of it is A, you're not always eating every meal at the dining hall, and then B, you're not getting as much food that the unlimited plan wants. So I kind of would prefer that if I'm looking at schools. You don't have to spend an excess amount of money for food that you're not going to eat. Are there other places to eat off of campus that aren't in the dining hall, and do you go to those places a lot, and is it some good selections?
There's definitely a lot of cool places downtown you could go to, and at the hub. So like the hub is this massive building in the center of campus with a bunch of chain restaurants and big like study areas. It's a pretty cool building, so you can definitely go there, stop in between class, grab some food. And downtown there's a lot of places to eat, like your typical college places, Chipotle, all that kind of stuff downtown. So yeah, there's not a lack of food there. And
the Chipotle, and it's a funny thing in college towns that have Chipotles, it's that they're just awful. Is that what it's like at Penn State, where they're always out of like steak and chicken and rice, or is it a normal functioning restaurant? I just have to ask as a college student.
I have really good luck with the Chipotle at Penn State. Whenever I go, it's always fine, but whenever my roommates go, it always seems like they're out of something. They're out of chicken or
you just find the right time to go, I guess.
Yeah, I get lucky.
And we touched on this before in terms of clubs, but are there any other things outside of the classroom that students do for fun? It's not in class, but it's also not like the nightlife, Greek life type scene. What is there to do for fun for someone who is not necessarily a big partier at Penn State? Or is it a school mainly geared towards kids who want to go out Thursday, Friday, Saturday?
I guess like if you're not talking about like parties, like we have a lot of events going on in the Bryce Jordan Center, which is our basketball arena kind of. They have concerts, like comedians come in. I guess that kind of ties into nightlife, but that's something, if you're not into going to bars and like frat parties, like that's definitely something that other students can look forward to. Yeah,
and do they have those like, is it once or twice every semester, or is it even more often than that?
Yeah, it's pretty often. I'd say like maybe once a weekend they have someone or like some kind of thing going on in the arena. Obviously, it's not all like geared towards like one specific group of people. Like sometimes there'll be like a country concert, and then the next time it'll be like a comedian, something totally different. But we had the Monster Jam come one week.
That's always that's always interesting.
Yeah, there's a ton of different stuff going on in there.
But like you were saying, it's geared towards a diverse group of people. There's something for everyone.
Yeah.
Which I think is, again, really, really cool. And the fact that they have something every week that's someone actually coming in and giving you entertainment is nothing short of amazing, because at most schools it's a couple times a semester if you're lucky. The fact that it's every weekend, I mean, that's not the answer I was expecting to give. I'm almost in shock just hearing that.
I mean, I'm not gonna say maybe not every single weekend,
but
like a lot of times there would be people coming in.
And then the campus culture too, not necessarily student wise, but in terms of, I don't want to say unique vibes, but right, like the football games. What are the vibes like at Penn State? I guess is what I'm trying to ask, right? What are the best vibes at Penn State? I assume it's gonna be during football season, but
yeah, I mean, they call it the Happy Valley for a reason. I'd say, like, everyone there is just trying to have a good time, really. The best vibes, football season, definitely, like, the beginning of the year kind of time is really awesome. And also, I'd say, like, the end of the spring semester is a really good time to be at Penn State when everything's blooming. Like, the weather's beautiful. Campus is, like, bustling with people. Yeah, so I'd say, like, kind of the beginning of the fall and the end of the spring. The best times.
Yeah, and it makes sense too, especially lining up with the weather and obviously football season like we've touched on. And I've been dying to ask you this question as a big college sports fan. I mean, just take me through a day in the life of a Penn State football fan for a Saturday home game in Beaver Stadium. From getting up to going to bed, take me to the experience of going to a game at Penn State.
So typically our home games on Saturdays are at noon most of the time if it's not the whiteout game. So yeah, we wake up pretty early, like it depends when, like 8 a.m. say, and you start drinking at 8 a.m. and you go to tailgates maybe by like 9 or 10. It's a massive tailgate scene. Like it's nothing I've ever seen before. Like you walk to the stadium and I'd say like a half-mile radius around the stadium is just all tailgates. Everyone who's at the game is out tailgating. It's amazing. So yeah, you do all that, then you finally go into the game. And like the game is electric. So much like tradition in Penn State football. So many like chants and all that kind of stuff going on. And then after the game, you go back to the tailgates and hang out there for a few more hours, and then you go home or do whatever. It's a full day. By the end of the day, you're wiped.
So it's almost like, kind of bringing it back to New Jersey. It's almost like a beach day. You get up early, right? You pregame a little bit, but it's a full day event, and it's just kind of takes up your whole Saturday.
Exactly.
And that's always so fun too. Penn State, right, like you said, it's known for its football. It has a long tradition of great coaches and national champions and great players and whatnot. Are there any other sports that are big on campus, or is it really just football?
Well, our wrestling team is the best in the country, but for some reason, like, most students don't really care about it. They only have one match in our big arena a year. I don't know why they don't have every single match there, because the ones that I've been to are like really awesome.
Yeah.
Like, it's really cool to see Penn State wrestling. But yeah, the basketball team, we had our little March Madness run 2 years ago, so I'd say the basketball team was pretty cool to watch that year. But yeah, other than that, people go to the baseball games. They're fun to go to, lacrosse games. But no, I'd say it's mainly football school.
That makes sense, and I think a lot of the Big Ten schools are like that as well. I mean, maybe Michigan, where they're a little more well-rounded at everything. Kids go to, the basketball games. I guess they weren't that good this past year. But my point being is that I never really hear of Penn State basketball. In a lot of their Big Ten schools, you kind of hear about, Michigan basketball, Michigan State basketball, this, that, and the third. But I always found it interesting how Penn State was almost so focused on football, and I just wondered if that was a perception of mine or the actual truth. So it was interesting getting to know that. And then looking a little towards Greek life, we've touched on it a bit, and it's we could have a whole episode in and of itself talking about Greek life in general. But just in short, right, are you in a frat, and how does that work, and what have you heard about Greek life?
So I'm not in a frat. I dabbled in it. I kind of decided that it wasn't for me.
Yeah.
But Greek life is huge. Like, I'll never knock it. Like, I have tons of friends who are in Greek life. I go to frat parties. But yeah, I think it's definitely something cool to be a part of. Especially if you're going into college and like you're worried about making friends. Like, boom, you already have like 150 friends. Like, and it's a great way to get involved if you're not in a club or a part of anything else, like a sports team. But yeah, Greek life is definitely very big at Penn State.
And sororities are the same way too, where a lot of people are in it and they're popular.
Yeah, exactly.
And it makes sense too. And I think you put it in. You think it's very valuable as a tool, right? If you're a first semester freshman, just to instantaneously find that group of people.
Penn State actually doesn't, like, they don't technically allow freshmen to rush frats. but some still do anyways. Or freshman first semester, I'm talking about. Like second semester, they can. But right when you get there, they don't want you to join a frat right away. Honestly, like, I'd recommend it if that's what you're into. If you're going to join one, join it right away.
It anyways. Yeah, it makes sense, too. We're sort of in that still kind of tradition feel. Is there any traditions, maybe, you know, not Greek life or football game related, that you guys do at Penn State?
Yeah, so I don't know if you've ever heard of Thon. Penn State Thon is basically a massive student-run fundraiser, which is meant to battle childhood cancer. Okay. And every year there's Thon Weekend. It's in February, and it's basically a 48-hour dance marathon where, like, the children and the families affected by cancer go there, and all the students go into, like, the basketball arena for 48 hours, and like a lot of people actually stay there the entire time.
And you just dance.
You dance. You're not allowed to sit down. So yeah, a lot of people, like, their goal before they graduate is to do the entire time at Thon. I think this past year we raised like $17 million.
In just 48 hours?
It's like something that goes on the entire year. So once you
still, yeah. That's a lot of money.
Yeah. So like once we get to school in August or whatever, like frats and clubs or whatever will start like sending out flyers. They'll raise money all sorts of ways. It's mainly run through Greek life, but if you want to be a part of it, like, definitely join a club, and your club's gonna have something to do with it as well.
And that's awesome. And I've heard a ton of other schools do it, but that $17 million figure is nothing. It's nothing short of amazing. Or even if it's the course of a whole semester or a year, the fact that it's raised mostly by students and student organizations is I don't think people realize how much money that is, especially coming from college students like ourselves who don't have that much to spare. But, you know, moving kind of more towards nightlife off campus as well, is there stuff to do that isn't a frat party or a party on campus? Is there stuff to do during the day off campus, even though it's kind of in the middle of nowhere? What's been your experience with that so far?
Yeah, as far as stuff like during the day, when it's nice out, people go hiking. There's mountains all around. You go hiking, skiing in the winter. I'm sure there's other stuff to do, like in terms of like nature, like fishing.
Yeah.
I haven't gone fishing or anything like that. There's a golf course. Penn State has a nice golf course. I've played that a few times. And then at nighttime, other than frat parties, people go to bars. Like, it is, I guess, predominantly Greek life school, but it's also a massive bar school.
Really?
Like, yeah. I guess 50-50,
I guess when it's such a big student population, you're going to have a little bit of dabbling and everything.
Yeah.
But there is stuff to do, right? Like, you know, it's just Saturday, maybe there's no football, or maybe it's the spring when it's not football season. There is stuff to do besides just studying and sitting in your apartment.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's always, again, good to hear, especially because I think people get the wrong perception about Penn State, too, where you hear, oh, it's in the middle of, you know, it's in State College, Pennsylvania, not near Philly, not near Pittsburgh, not near anything. I think people think that there's not that much to do there. So, again, it's good to hear, as someone who's never been there before, that that's not true, that there is stuff to do.
Yeah, it's definitely, it's a massive city, basically.
And it's all college students.
Uh-huh.
This is something that, this is my favorite question. I always like to ask it. And as you wrap up here, can you just describe Penn State in one sentence?
We kind of touched on this before, but I'd say, like, Penn State is a crowd pleaser. Like, no matter who you are, I think you can go there and you'll enjoy it. I think you'll get a good education while enjoying yourself. Like, I think if you went to Penn State, you'd love it. I think really, like, for most people, if they went to Penn State, they would love it.
That's also what I've heard from a lot of students that I talk to that go to Penn State, is that it's really just for everyone, whether you're into Greek life or you're really focused on academics or you're really into bars for some reason at age 18. You'll find your people, which I think is, besides getting a degree, is the main part of college, just to have a good time and find some friends. But Joey, as we wrap up here, is there any advice that you want to give to kids, either going to Penn State or going to college in general or just going through the admissions process?
Yeah, I'd say for, like, incoming freshmen, really take in that first, like, 2 weeks of freshman year. There's really no other feeling like that. Try to meet as many people as you can and make friends. I think, like, for me at least, part of what's made Penn State so great is the friends that I've made. Like, I think really no matter where you go, as long as you have a good core group of friends, you're going to have a good time. So yeah, meet a bunch of people. You probably won't end up being friends with 90% of the people you meet in the first week or so, but put yourself out there and be yourself. And
that's all I really had to ask. I think that's a great way to wrap it up and let people know what the first 2 weeks of college is really about, because I agree, it's just about meeting people. But Is there anything else you want to add about Penn State or the college experience in general?
I think that's it.
Yeah, and I think we've touched on a lot of really, really great things about Penn State in this episode. And Joey, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on, and good luck during the rest of your time at Penn State.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.